when I played, one of the things that I had to learn is how to get the best out of my teammates.
Yeah.
And most people think it's a simple thing, pass them the ball. But that's not how you make guys better. You have to really affect their behavior.
How do you do that?
So, I would tell guys, we got back-to-backs. I don't care if we're in Miami, I don't care if we're in a great city of Chicago. We can't go out, we gotta get rest, right?
I think the best way to prove your value is to work, is to learn, is to absorb, to be a sponge. Right? But you always want to outwork your potential. As hard as you believe you can work harder than that. And that's what I tried to do when I first came in the league. But basketball is such a direct competition sport that me coming in at 17, I hated when my teammates would say, I get hit with an elbow, right? Shaq would hit me with an elbow in practice, and Nick Van Exel would come up and say, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "What? Mao, are you okay? What the hell's wrong with you?" So I always had that extra chip on my shoulder. So every day in practice for me was really trying to annihilate everybody that I was playing against, because I wanted to prove you don't need to babysit me. I'm fine, And so it's always that competitive nature, the work ethic, and curiosity. Because I asked a lot of questions. Playing with Bryant Scott, I asked him a lot of questions. Eddie Jones, who was great at chasing guards off the screens, and I didn't understand how to do that. I would sit with him before practice, after practice. Magic, James Worthy, Kurt Rambis, Kareem Abdul, all the Laker greats. I would always sit down and just ask them questions about certain games that I studied growing up. What actually happened there? What did you feel there? Why? Bird tough to defend. Why? Because you look slow as shit than me. So I'm missing something. So tell me what I'm missing. You know what I mean? And so I would always ask questions and try to learn as much as I could.
We talk about this often, and we always talk about the fact that you can learn a lot more from the failures than you can from the successes. And you have to figure out where those landmines are, and then how to best avoid those, or help entrepreneurs, and ourselves included, figure out the clues of where those landmines are. Not that you're going to avoid all of them,
right?
But it's also, when you do step on one, figuring out, okay, how do you recuperate? How do you balance back and pick yourself up? I had a summer where I played basketball when I was 10 or 11 years old, in a very prominent summer league in Philadelphia called the Sunny Hill League, where my father played, my uncle played, and they were all-time greats and such stuff. And Wilt Chamberlain played in the league, Earl Pro Monroe played in the league. And here I come playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer.
Really?
Not one.
How old were you?
10, 11.
And you're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds?
Uh-huh.
And you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How'd you not score?
Because I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
At 10, 11 years old, you were that terrible.
Awful. I mean, and I had these big knee pads on because I was growing really fast. I had socks all the way up here, and I had the high top
skinny,
fade, skinny as hell. And I scored not a free throw, nothing, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points.
Is that when you think the mentality of hard work started to come in for you at that age, when you failed so miserably, I guess, that summer?
I think that's when the idea of understanding a long-term view became important, because I wasn't going to catch these kids in a week. I wasn't going to catch them in a year, right? So that's when I sat down and said, okay, this is going to take some thought, right? What do I want to work on first? All right, shooting. All right, let's knock this out. Let's focus on this. Half a year, 6 months, do nothing but shoot. All right, after that, all right, creating your own shot, and then you focus. So I started creating a menu of things. When I came back the next summer, I was a little bit better. Right?
A menu being I've got my jump shot from 15, I've got my
I got my jump shot
away,
from 15, I got my three-point shot, just open shots, not miss open shots, right? Be able to shoot it with speed, because those kids are so much more athletic.
Yeah.
And then the next summer I came back, I was a little better. And the summer came back, next summer I was a little better. I scored.
Yeah,
it wasn't much, but I scored.
And this is 12, 13.
12, 13. And then 14 came around, back half of 13, 14 years old, and then I was just killing everyone. And it happened in 2 years. And I wasn't expecting it to happen in 2 years, but it did, because what I had to do was work on the basics and the fundamentals, while they relied on their athleticism and their natural ability. And because I stick to the fundamentals, it just caught up to them. And then my body, my knees stopped hurting. I grew into my frame. And
then your athleticism once you have the fundamentals,
Exactly.
the hard work, the mindset, and you tack on the athleticism, it's game over.
Then it was game over.
Wow. So from 13, you're good, average still?
I was good. And then about the end of my right when I was turning 14, I became the best player in the state.
At 14?
At 14.
So from 12 to 14, you went from scoring 0 to being the best in the state of all ages.
Yep.
When we talk about hard work all the time, it's like, man, if you got to get up every single morning and remind yourself how hard you need to work, you probably need to choose a different profession, because that shouldn't be there. I wake up in the morning excited to get to it. If I'm not training, I'm missing it. If I'm not watching a game of basketball, I miss it. There's no place I'd rather be. And if you have that feeling, then you're truly doing what God has put you on this earth to do. I think you have to challenge yourself to evolve and to grow. And I couldn't think of a better message for athletes in particular, because it's very easy for us athletes to kind of lose ourselves and our identity by connecting who we are to what we do. And I think that's a very dangerous zone to be in. Right, so it's common sense to me to be able to say, okay, the next stage I'm going after with the same intensity, the same attention to detail, the same curiosity. So of course I'd want to be better at that than I was in my previous career.
That's a pretty high bar, though. You have enough energy left for that orange, I guess.
We're going to find out, right? I mean, that's the thing. You go for it, and you do all you can. You learn as much as you can. You continue to try, you continue to improve, you continue to evolve, and then you can see who you are, right? 20 years from now, I can look at it. But in the East, we can dominate them inside with Shaq in the post. But if you continue to do this, we'll lose Shaq. We'll lose him.
His motivation, his excitement.
What triggers him, right? So I need you to pull back so we can pull Shaq forward for June.
Wow.
And I just looked at him like, man, this is one smart dude.
Wow,
man.
that's really smart.
Yeah, it's one smart dude, man. So I pulled it back.